I mentioned in the past how very fortunate I feel to have grown up in the 1980s as someone who was obsessed with consumer electronics tech. There was no better time to be around all these different manufacturers throwing every idea they could up against the wall, hoping to get a hit on their hands. It was just a fascinating time. Unfortunately though, on the flip side, growing up in the 1980s meant that I was a child and I could never really afford any of the cool stuff that I was seeing in the shops, except for one occasion that I remember specifically, and that's the thing I want to show you today, because this was a time that I remember so vividly, because it was the only time really I managed to pick up a piece of tech that was cutting edge, but at a price that I could afford. And it was something that when I took it to school, all the other kids thought that it was really cool. And yet I'd only paid a very small amount for it. It was one of those weird occasions. When you used to go shopping in the 80s, you never knew what you were going to find in the shops. I know it's slightly similar with clothes and things now, but as far as consumer electronics tech, I think most people know that if they go into a shop, what's going to be there. Well, back in the 80s, it changed so frequently, and usually the first time you saw something was when you saw it in a shop. So this was one of those occasions. I went into town just to wander around, have a look, see what was available. And I went into Boots the Chemist, which at the time used to have an electronics section. And in that section, they had like a cabinet with all the kind of more valuable things in it, things they didn't want you to nick. And in there was this little item that I'm going to show you today. And for some reason, they'd knocked the price down from £20 down to £5. I mean, it all sounds like next to nothing nowadays, but as a kid in the 1980s, I did have a £5 in my pocket because it had been given to me by my grandma for Christmas. So I spent it on this thing, and yeah, it was weird why they were clearing it out, because it was like brand new to the market. They couldn't have got it in any more than a week or so earlier, but shops used to do this kind of thing sometimes, which was why it was always worth wandering around just in case you got a bargain. Anyway, I want to show you the thing that I got back then, the thing that I took home on the bus, the thing that I was so very proud that I managed to acquire. So let's have a look at it. Oh, I can't show you the one that I had from back then. That one's long gone. But with the help of my time machine, I'll be able to bring a new old stock one back from the mid-1980s. Right, so here it is again after all these years, the Casio card radio, the RD-10. I don't think it was ever claiming to be the smallest radio ever made, but it's certainly one of them. Of course, there were FM radios on wristwatches, and I had a few of those over the years, but they were always very unreliable and burnt through batteries very quickly. This one, well, did things a little bit differently. It's got this card shape to it, which is roughly the same size as a credit card, of course a little bit thicker. And we've still got the protective film on this one, so yeah, it is new old stock. Let's just peel that off. Oh yeah. So now we've got this lovely glossy finish. Oh yeah. Yeah, there we go. Right, so a very simple little device really. You've got your tuning dial up here, and you've got your volume down there, which is pretty much all you need. Although it did do quite a few things differently to your normal radio. First off, batteries. It ran on a CR2032. Oh no, hold on, a CR2016. And back in the day, I remember those being quite difficult to get hold of. Of course, they're really easy to find nowadays, but to a child in the 1980s in a small town, those were a little bit tricky to pick up. You couldn't just get them at any normal shop where you buy batteries. Now, the other thing that this does differently, the headphones turn it on and off. And of course, you'll notice that's not your normal headphone socket. And if we go into this packet here, you'll see we have an earphone, just a single one. So this is a mono FM radio. And on the end of here, we've got this rather unusual connector. I'd say unique, but there might be some other models in the range that use this. But let's just plug this in and see if there's any power in that battery. Right, here goes. So plugging it in switches it on. Let's have a listen, see if there's anything there. And would you believe it? It's working just fine. Right, I'm going to pop the earpiece up to my lavalier and hopefully you can have a listen. The sound, well, I'd say it was a little bit thin and crispy. It's not particularly rich, but you got to remember, at the time this came out, these earbuds weren't entirely common as far as personal stereo devices go. Most people still had the little headphones, so it was a little bit ahead of its time that way. But with this particular one, you've got to be very careful that you don't damage or lose this, because if you do, that's the end of that, because you're not going to get another one of those from any other manufacturer, and they didn't sell them separately. The battery life, so it's approximately 6 hours on one of those CR 2016s. And you've therefore got to make sure you don't accidentally leave your earphones plugged in and run your battery down. But as you can see, this is a really beautifully made, incredibly slim little radio. And back in the day, I remember going around with this in my top pocket on my school blazer and having the wire run up to my ear, looking like some kind of miniature Secret Service agent. I must look like a flipping idiot, but at the time I thought I was cool. And of course the antenna, the aerial, is part of the earpiece, the wire for this. So depending upon which way you're standing, which direction, sometimes your radio might fade in and out. But I'm amazed to see this one's still working fine on its original battery after all these years. Now, in recent years, I've done some research into what other models came out in this range, and I managed to find a Japanese brochure which shows that when I got mine, there was a choice of this FM model or an AM model. The AM radio was approximately double the thickness at 3.9 millimeters as opposed to the FM variant's 1.9. And in some territories, there was an FM and AM card combined, which again used that same thicker case as the AM radio. But perhaps the most 80s of all were versions of the AM and FM radio with a solar-powered calculator on them. I do feel like Casio's mission statement back in the 80s was, whatever it is, stick a calculator on it. And here it is. This is an RD-90, so this is the FM version with a calculator on the flip side. And again, I think this one should be brand new in box. Let's have a look. Now, the calculator on these is solar powered, but that doesn't affect the radio. The radio is still powered by a button or coin cell, I should say. So you can see in this one, we're in the thicker style of case. There's enough room to put writing on the side of this now. This is 3.9 millimeters thick as opposed to the 1.9 of the FM radio, and here they are side by side. So effectively this is virtually double the size of this one as far as the thickness goes, but of course they're both the same size as a credit card in the other dimensions. But yeah, let's just flip this one over. Oh, calculator's working just fine, which is nice to see. Let's just put some digits in here. Oh, it's quite nice to type on. I thought that would be a difficult keyboard to use, but no, it's nice. I've got a memory on here as well. Now, we've got the tuning dial at the top. But as far as the switch at the bottom here goes, it says volume, low and high. I don't know if you're able to read that, but so yeah, we've only got a 2-position volume on this one. But of course, the same thing again as previous. Once you pop your earpiece in, that'll switch it on. And no doubt this is a 2016 again. Yep, right, okay. So let's pop in that new earpiece we've got. And at least I've got a spare one of these now. And we'll see if this one is working as well. I mean, the other one did, so I don't see why not. But electronics are funny sometimes. Oh, look, tune in to Aldec. Anyone know what Aldec is? I'm sure lots of people do. I'm not one of them, though. Right, so let's just pop this in here. So this is like a sponsored version that would have been given away, no doubt, to people. And that's probably why it's still in its box, because whoever got it didn't really want it. Right, let's have a listen. Ah, that's not sounding too healthy. I'm just getting a whistle. So let's see if it's the battery. So I'll swap that out. Yes, unfortunately, the radio side of this seems to have succumbed to the ravages of time. It's not picking any stations up, and all I'm getting is a very faint whistle in the background, which doesn't vary when I alter the tuning wheels. So unfortunately, this one is now just a calculator. But I did wonder back in the day when I'd picked this one up if they'd ever made a stereo version. It turns out they had. And I picked one up a few years ago thinking I'd show it in a video. And then when I got it out of the package, I realised I'd have difficulty doing that because of one change they'd made from these versions. Let me show you. Okay, so here's the little package that I bought, and it came with the stereo earbuds. So I thought I'd got everything I needed. However, what I didn't realise was that they'd changed the battery system for the stereo version. So there's no coin cell in this one anymore. Unfortunately, we've got a socket that's labelled battery charger. So this is a rechargeable one now, which of course after all these years is very unlikely to hold a charge. But it's not something I could even test out because I didn't have the appropriate charger. So just for the sake of this video, I went looking online to see if anyone was selling a suitable charger, just to see if it would hold any kind of charge at all, or if I could even hear stereo audio through it whilst it was plugged in. And turns out, yeah, someone in America was selling the appropriate charger. Bit of a lucky find, that one, because I can't imagine there's too many of these chargers floating around in the world. Of course, US voltage, so I'm going to have to use it through a step-down power transformer. So just give me a second to find one of those. Right, here goes. I'm going to have to leave this on charge for quite some time, I'd imagine. We'll have a look in the instruction booklet in a minute to see regarding the charging requirements. But yeah, that's just should pop in there. Hopefully I've got the right charger. Yep, there we go. Of course, there's no kind of charging light coming on there. But let's just have a look in this instruction booklet and see how long it's supposed to take to charge and how long the battery lasts. I'm not sure why they went over to a rechargeable. It must be because of the extra drain from the FM stereo. Right, 5 hours of charge allows for 5 hours of listening, which then says it's approximately 4 hours after 300 full charges. So yeah, a bit of a compromise, the stereo version, but it's pretty much the same system as the others. We've got our volume control, tuning wheel, and when the headphones are plugged in, that's when it switches on. And these headphones, as you can see here, we've got our dual earpieces. So I'll unravel that and I'll leave this for 5 hours now, and we'll see if we get any kind of activity out of it. And maybe by the time I come back, my voice will have improved. Right, leave it there for the moment. Hold on, just a quick correction to make. I didn't spot the power switch. So this one has a switch that is labelled up as power off, stereo and mono. So it's no longer a matter of plugging your headphones into this one to switch it on and off. We've got a proper power switch. So it does things a little bit differently to the other models in the range. Of course, it is a later version. There might have been some other variants as well. These are just the only ones I can find, but it's using the same thickness of case as the one with the calculator in it and the AM radios. So it's still maintaining that part of the design, but as far as most of the other features, it's changed things around quite a bit. Anyway, leave it here now to charge, but keep a close eye on it from a distance just in case it sets on fire. After all, it hasn't been charged in a long time and it might not like it. So yeah, I'm just going to keep my eye on this one. Yeah, so do you want the good news or the entirely predictable news? I think we'll start with the latter, and rather expectedly, this thing will not take a charge after all these years. I ended up leaving it plugged in for 10 hours, and the best I got after all that was a little bit of a crackle, and then it disappeared again. Even with that plugged into the socket, you can't listen to the radio on this one. So yeah, that's why you always want to avoid old devices with built-in rechargeable, non-replaceable batteries like this, because after all these years, the battery is now the thing that makes it completely useless. But now, on to the good news. While I was waiting for that device to charge, I had to play around with this one again and tried some different batteries in it. I got to the third battery and it works just fine.
The song we were talking about was from The Police, and it's every little thing she does is magic.
I ended up using one of these Vartas, but I've got plenty of CR 2016s and the other ones, yeah, completely dead in the packet. And that is something to point out about those coin cells. Sometimes they will just die before you've even got round to using them. And it's weird, isn't it? Because when we got this one, it had its original battery in it, and that one worked just fine. So yeah, they're very variable in quality. So you're better off paying a little bit more for those coin cells. Talking about paying a little bit more, it turned out that in the end, it wasn't just Casio that made these card radios. After doing a bit of research looking to see the different models that are available, I found this thing. This is a Sony SRF-220. They came with various different designs on this side. This one commemorates 40 years of Sony radios. But on this side, you can see we've got our tuning window here, and it's built inside the device, viewable through a little window rather than sticking out from the side. And in addition to that, this one has FM and AM on it. We've got a normal volume control. We've got an on-off switch on this one as well. And this runs off a CR2032. So that's a bit of a thicker battery than the 2016, which means we've got a longer battery life. This has a 20-hour battery life. Now, bear in mind, one of those other Casios, the little stereo rechargeable one, was 4 hours. That's a little bit more impressive. A little bit chunkier than all of the Casios I've got, but still, I mean, it's not exactly taking up a heck of a lot of room in your pocket. But the most important feature on this one is the fact it's got a proper headphone socket on it, which means you can use your own headphones. Now, the chap I bought this from, he said he didn't know whether it was working. It was untested. And the reason being, that's a 2.5mm socket on there. So he didn't have headphones that would plug into there, which was a benefit to me because I got it at a knockdown price, and all I needed was a suitable adapter for a 3.5mm headphone socket. And now it works just fine.
The Smooth Sanctuary on Smooth Radio.
So I can use my own proper stereo headphones with this, none of those little earbud things, and I've got a lovely little card radio. So yeah, it turns out the Sony SRF-220 is possibly the best of the card radios. There might be some more out there, but as far as the ones I've found so far, this one ends up being my modern day favourite, but that doesn't mean, of course, I haven't got a lot of nostalgia for this one that I picked up back in the 80s. But yeah, there you go. Those are some of the card radios from Casio and Sony, and I hope you've enjoyed having a look at these here today. But that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.